The absolute worst day in Chickenlandia was the day that I lost, I can't even remember. I think it was 5 birds in one day. It was an awful predator attack, and I had to think long and hard about what everybody was saying because I want to give the best advice. So here goes. Okay, I'll put you down. Hello, friends. Welcome to Chickenlandia. My name is Dahlia. I'm a backyard chicken educator, also known as the president of Chickenlandia. Raising chickens has been the best way for me to find peace and joy in my life, and I want to help you find that too. We are going to discuss some controversial things today. It's going to be full of chicken drama, so pour your cup of tea. One of the first questions I get from people that are researching and they want to keep their chickens, they will ask me, look, should I free range my chickens or should I keep them in an enclosed run? And there are a lot of feelings among educators and other chicken keepers about this very topic because, obviously if you have your chickens free ranged, then there are pros and cons to that. If you have your chickens in an enclosed run, there are many pros to that, but there's also some cons that a lot of people that are like anti-free range don't talk about. Chickenlandia is a diplomatic nation. And I am a diplomatic president. So what I'm gonna do is tell you the pros and cons of each so that you can move forward and make an informed decision, okay? That's not based on some moral imperative that someone else is putting on you, but is based on the facts that you have, what you know about your situation and your flock, and you can feel good about it, okay? That's what I'm here for, all right? You will see in Chickenlandia, I have a very predator-proof space. I don't free range my chickens. Instead, I have them in an enclosed run. There is netting over the top. There's a fence with hardware mesh. That hardware mesh is buried into the ground. It would really be hard for any animal to penetrate this area. Who knows? We're learning all the time. So maybe it could happen, but I would be really surprised because I've really gone above and beyond to protect my chickens. If you decide that you want to free range your chickens, one very important thing for you to know is that unless you have a dog that is protective, not like my dogs, okay, but a dog that will protect your chickens or some kind of farm animal that is protective over your flock, unless you have that, you will very likely at some point lose chickens because especially the production breeds that we have today, they're not really bred with that instinct of how to protect themselves. So they're just a little bit more vulnerable than, let's say, like a red jungle fowl in the jungles of Malaysia. That chicken has more of an instinct to be aware of its surroundings and protect itself from predators. A lot of people that free range will have a rooster and they'll feel like, I have my rooster protects my flock. And that's true. A good rooster will really try to protect his flock, but he can only do so much against a predator that can eventually kill him and probably will kill him. And then, he'll fight and he'll fight to the death. But ultimately, he could very easily be overpowered and then your entire flock is vulnerable. So once predators find out about this, they will come back. It's much harder to protect them if they're out in the open, especially from aerial predators. And then there's like raccoons, there's weasels, there's coyotes, lots of critters out there. Even if you're in the suburbs, like if you're in the suburbs, or if you're in the city and you have your chickens free ranging in the backyard, but you have fencing, there are many animals that can still get to them. These are just things that I want you to keep in mind. Having a rooster is a layer of protection. Having lots of trees and stuff and bushes and stuff where chickens can hide is a layer of protection, but nothing is going to protect them from predators as much as predator proofing will. It just won't, unless you have a really good dog, okay? Now, that being said, there are definitely pros to free ranging your chickens. When I see a flock of chickens that's just like moving across pasture, that is such a beautiful sight. And it really, like when you see it, you really feel like, wow, that's how chickens are supposed to be. That's how they're supposed to live. Your chickens have access to different areas, and this is better for them in terms of disease, in terms of parasite infestation, and it also helps them to lay healthier eggs because chickens on pasture are known to lay healthier eggs. So it's good for us too. When I lived at my other property, it was a much smaller space than this. It was, what I would consider a suburban area. It was like a subdivision. And for many years, I had my chickens in my backyard in a separate space, but I did not have any kind of netting over the top of them. Well, I learned that in my circumstance, that was a mistake. On the worst day in Chickenlandia, a raccoon climbed over that fence and attacked my chickens, and I lost, I think, I can't even remember. It's like 2 ducks and 3 chickens. And it was awful because the ones I lost were like special needs. They were old or they had other issues going on. And so they were vulnerable. And I felt so guilty. I was like consumed with guilt. I will tell you that one thing that I discovered about myself through that experience was that I'm not the kind of person that handles it very well when I lose my chickens. And, I say I don't handle it very well, but I'm a sensitive person and I handle it the way I'm able to handle it. It's not right or wrong. It's just that it's hard on me. My chickens are like my pets. They all have names and I love them. And when something happens, it's very shocking to me. It's really hard for me to deal with it. And I know I'm not alone. I know there's many of you out there that feel the same way. And then there's a lot of you out there that you raise your chickens, you care about your animals, you care about their quality of life, but you also understand that part of life is death, and you're more able to kind of take that in stride. And I respect that, and I have zero judgment on that, okay? So, even though it is true that your chickens will be much more vulnerable to predation if they are free range, that doesn't mean that I'm anti-free range. And like I said, there's a lot of educators that are. One of the main reasons that I am not anti-free range and that I do understand if people make that decision is because this right here, this run, this very, very predator-proofed area is not cheap. There are ways that you can do it that will make it, you don't need to spend money like I did. There are ways that you can do this, repurpose materials, free materials, but that takes a lot of planning and some people just don't have that kind of time. I get it. I want chicken keeping to be available for everybody. So what I will always say is use the resources that you have, do the best that you can, and make the choice that's right for you. One of the things that anti-free range people will say is that, you're putting your chickens in danger and it's cruel. You're putting your chickens in danger. But one of the things that I will say to that is that people, including myself, that have their chickens in an enclosed run are also absorbing risk when it comes to the health and welfare of their flock. So in some ways, one could argue, well, there are dangers to keeping your chickens on the same space for the entirety of their life. And that's what I do. I have my chickens in this enclosed run. They will always be on this space. This is the space that they will live on for their whole life. I will probably be here for many, many, many years, okay, and have a flock here for many, many, many years. Because of that, my flock is more vulnerable to disease, and my flock is more vulnerable to parasite infestation. There's just no getting around that. If my chickens were free range, they would have more space, or I could just move them to another space. But I've had a situation where it was like, oh my gosh, I've got this disease going on and I really have to deal with it. And I believe that it was likely worse because I have my chickens in an enclosed run and because they're on this same space day after day, being exposed to the same things day after day. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I have evaluated my risk and this is what I've decided to do. Okay? I'm just saying that there's pros and cons to both sides. Whether your chickens are free ranged or whether they're in an enclosed run, I want you to know that I am here for you. Because when I see a chicken that is living in someone's backyard, whether or not they have free range of that whole backyard, whether or not they're on pasture, or whether or not they are in an enclosed run, when I see that, I know that that's one less chicken that's not in a factory farm. And that is my goal, Instead of putting up roadblocks and telling people, no, what you're doing is wrong, what you're doing is bad. What I want to do is just give you information so that you can bring us one step closer to living in a world where there are no factory farms, a world that will be better for us and for our children. Okay, so I talked about these risks that you absorb if you have your chickens in an enclosed run, if you have your chickens in a smaller space, but you can mitigate those risks. You totally can. I've got a video about it. It's all about keeping chickens in the city, why you should do it, and there's a lot of information. Even if you're not in the city, if you have your chickens in an enclosed run in a smaller space, you're gonna get a lot of information from this video. So it is on the screen right now. All you have to do is click on it. It's 100% friendly backyard chickens education and entertainment, and I know you're gonna love it.